The Canon EOS 5D Mark IV sat in the azalea bushes, lens pointed toward nothing. Morning dew covered its professional-grade body. The camera's price tag exceeded $3,500. No wedding photographer abandons equipment worth that much. Tom Rivera walked his morning security route at Riverside Manor on June 2, 2019. The banquet hall occupied a restored 1920s building along the Hudson River in Westchester County, New York. Tom had worked there for 6 years. He knew every corner of the property. Sunlight caught the lens at exactly 11:20 a.m. Tom stopped. The camera lay 30 feet from the service entrance, partially hidden by flowering bushes. He recognized it immediately. Professional photographers worked weddings at Riverside Manor every weekend. Before we begin the story, let us know in the comments which city you're watching from. We're really curious where you're tuning in from. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a rating. Tom called his supervisor before touching anything. The supervisor called management. Management remembered the previous night's incident. A wedding photographer had vanished during the reception. The bride had filed a missing person report at 10:30 p.m. Detective Robert Kane arrived at 1:15 p.m. He had worked major crimes for 12 years. Missing persons cases usually resolved within 48 hours. Most people turned up alive. But abandoned professional equipment changed the calculation. Kane photographed the camera's position before retrieving it. The SD card remained in its slot. The battery showed 63% charge. No signs of damage appeared on the body. Someone had set it down deliberately or dropped it in haste. The last wedding at Riverside Manor had been the Sterling Chen ceremony. 112 guests, 6-hour reception, premium package venue rental at $15,000. Everything had appeared perfect until 9:05 p.m. when the wedding coordinator noticed the photographer's absence. Emily Harrison had been 29 years old. She owned a small photography studio called Captured Moments in Brooklyn's Dumbo neighborhood. Her apartment was in Park Slope. She lived alone. Her mother lived in Connecticut. Emily had no history of disappearing or erratic behavior. Kane returned to the precinct with the camera. He needed to examine the SD card's contents. But first, he needed to understand the people involved in yesterday's wedding. Olivia Sterling had hired Emily 3 months earlier, in March 2019. Olivia worked as a corporate lawyer at a Manhattan firm. She was 27 years old, methodical, detail-oriented. She had reviewed portfolios from 8 different photographers before selecting Emily. Marcus Chen, the groom, was 29. He worked as an architect. He had met Olivia through mutual friends 2 years earlier, in 2017. Their relationship progressed steadily. No drama, no red flags. They announced their engagement in September 2018. Jenna Morales had coordinated the wedding. She was 34 years old and owned Perfect Day Events, a wedding planning company. Jenna had organized over 200 weddings in her 12-year career. She prided herself on preventing problems before they occurred. Kane interviewed Jenna first, on the afternoon of June 2nd. She sat across from him in the precinct interview room, her hands clasped tightly together. "I last spoke with Emily around 8:40 p.m., Jenna said. She was photographing the cocktail hour. Everything seemed normal." "Did she appear upset or distracted?" Kane asked. Jenna paused. "Actually, yes. She kept glancing toward the bar area. I asked if everything was okay. She said she was fine, just concentrating on getting the right shots." "When did you notice she was missing?" "Around 9:05. I needed to tell her about the cake-cutting schedule. I couldn't find her anywhere in the main hall. I checked the terrace, the restrooms, everywhere. Her equipment bag was still inside, but she wasn't." Kane made notes. "What did you do then?" "I asked the catering staff if they'd seen her. 3 waiters said they saw her near the service entrance around 8:55. But when I checked there, she wasn't around. That's when I started to worry. I called her cell phone. It went straight to voicemail." The timeline was critical. Emily had been present until approximately 8:40 p.m. Staff members saw her at 8:55 p.m. By 9:05 p.m., she had vanished. A 25-minute window. Kane interviewed Olivia and Marcus together on June 3rd. They arrived at the precinct looking exhausted. Olivia had been crying. Marcus kept his arm around her shoulders. "This is our fault," Olivia said immediately. "If we'd hired someone else, maybe—" "This isn't about your choices," Kane interrupted gently. "I need you to help me understand what happened. When did you last see Emily?" Marcus answered. "I saw her around 8:30, photographing my grandmother dancing. That's the last time I remember seeing her." "And you, Olivia?" Olivia's hands trembled. "I don't know. Maybe 8:15? The evening became a blur after the cocktail hour started. There were so many people to talk to." Kane pulled out his tablet. He had spent the previous evening examining the SD card from Emily's camera. 247 photographs. The first 197 showed normal wedding coverage, ceremony shots, portraits, group photos, standard professional work. But photographs 197 through 247 told a different story. "I need you to look at something," Kane said. He turned the tablet toward them. "Do you recognize this person?" The photograph showed the reception hall. Guests mingled near the bar. In the background, slightly out of focus, stood a man in a gray suit. He wasn't looking at the camera. He was watching the crowd. Marcus leaned forward. "I don't recognize him. Is he on the guest list?" "That's what I'm trying to determine." Kane swiped to the next photo. Same man, different position. Swiped again. Same man, now near the terrace doors. Again, near the gift table. He showed them 15 photographs in sequence. The man in the gray suit appeared in every single one, always on the periphery, always watching. The timestamps ran from 6:15 p.m. to 8:47 p.m. Olivia's face had gone pale. Kane noticed immediately. "Olivia? Do you know him?" She stared at the screen. The final photograph showed the man's face more clearly. Emily had zoomed in, capturing details, sharp features, dark hair, a cold, focused expression. Olivia's voice caught. "I'm not sure. It's been a long time." Marcus turned to her. "What do you mean?" "Before I met you," Olivia said slowly, "I was engaged to someone else. His name was Daniel Crawford. We dated for 3 years. I broke off the engagement in 2017. Kane sat forward. "Why did you end the relationship?" "He became controlling, jealous. He needed to know where I was every minute. He would show up at my office unannounced. He went through my phone. It got worse after we got engaged. I realized I couldn't marry him." "Did he accept the breakup?" Olivia laughed bitterly. "No, he sent me hundreds of texts. He waited outside my apartment. I had to get a restraining order. It was valid for 2 years. It expired in March." March 2019, 3 months before the wedding. "Did you invite Daniel to your wedding?" Kane asked, though he already knew the answer. "Of course not. I haven't seen or spoken to him since 2017. He moved to California after the restraining order. At least, that's what I heard." Kane zoomed in on the man's face in the photograph. "Could this be Daniel?" Olivia studied the image. Her hands shook. "I don't know. Maybe. The features look similar, but it's been 2 years. I'm not certain." Marcus had gone very still. His jaw tightened. "You never told me you had a previous engagement." "It was before us? I didn't think it mattered anymore." "Your ex-boyfriend got a restraining order against him, and you didn't think that mattered?" Kane interrupted before they could argue further. "We'll need everything you have on Daniel Crawford. Previous addresses, phone numbers, social media accounts, anything that might help us locate him." Olivia nodded, wiping her eyes. "I'll send you everything I kept from the restraining order proceedings." "But, Detective, why would Daniel hurt Emily? He didn't even know her." That was the question. Kane had spent hours studying those 50 photographs. Emily hadn't been taking random shots. Professional wedding photographers worked systematically, following a shot list. But these final 50 images showed a pattern. Emily had been documenting someone. She had noticed the man in gray. She had deliberately photographed his movements throughout the reception. The zoom levels increased with each shot. She was gathering evidence. The EXIF data embedded in each photograph revealed more. The camera's GPS function had been enabled. It showed Emily's exact position at the time of each shot. She had moved methodically through the reception hall, maintaining visual contact with her subject. The last photograph, number 247, had a timestamp of 8:47 p.m. The zoom was at maximum. The man's face filled the frame. His expression had changed. He was looking directly at the camera, directly at Emily. He knew she was photographing him. 18 minutes later, Emily Harrison had vanished. Kane sent Olivia and Marcus home. He pulled up the guest list from the wedding, 112 names. He cross-referenced every name against photographs Jenna had provided from the check-in table. Each guest had received a name tag for the dinner seating arrangement. None of the guests matched the man in the gray suit. None of the +1s matched. Kane had 3 waiters independently examine the photographs. None of them remembered seeing this person. 112 invited guests, 1 uninvited visitor, and 1 missing photographer who had noticed him. On June 4th, Kane's team made another discovery. An officer conducting a secondary sweep of the Riverside Manor property found something in the parking lot dumpster. A temporary security badge, number 47. The plastic card bore a magnetic strip and a handwritten name, David Chen, family. The badge belonged to Riverside Manor's security system. Temporary badges were issued to vendors and family members of guests who arrived separately. They allowed access to restricted areas and parking zones. Kane called Jenna Morales immediately. "Did you issue a temporary security badge to someone named David Chen?" "Let me check my records," Jenna said. Kane heard papers rustling. "Yes, I received a call at 5:05 p.m. on June 1st. The caller said he was Marcus's cousin, David Chen. He was running late from the airport. He asked if I could have a security badge ready at the check-in." "Did you verify this with Marcus?" "No," Jenna admitted. "Weddings always have last-minute arrivals. The caller knew the venue name, the time, and my name. I didn't think to question it. I called security and had them prepare badge number 47. Kane felt his pulse quicken. "Did the caller have an accent?" "Slight. Nothing unusual. He sounded polite, professional." "What time did this David Chen check in?" According to the security log, badge 47 was activated at 6:03 p.m., but there's no record of it being deactivated. Whoever used it never checked out. Kane pulled Marcus Chen's phone records. Marcus had made 17 calls to the same number between April and May 2019. The number belonged to a prepaid cell phone purchased with cash at a convenience store in Queens. Untraceable. But the call to Jenna's phone at 5:05 p.m. on June 1st had come from a different prepaid number, also purchased with cash, also untraceable. Someone had made sure to use different phones for different purposes. Kane's team traced badge number 47 through the security system. It had been used to enter the venue at 6:03 p.m. The magnetic strip reader recorded a single swipe at the service entrance at 8:58 p.m. Then nothing. No exit scan, no further activity. The service entrance was exactly where the waiters had seen Emily. The time matched, approximately 8:55 to 9 p.m. And that was where Tom Rivera had found the camera the next morning, in the azaleas near that same entrance. Kane requested surveillance footage from Riverside Manor. The venue had 12 cameras covering various areas. But the service entrance camera had been repositioned the day before the wedding. Instead of covering the door, it now pointed toward the loading zone at an angle that missed the entrance entirely. "Who authorized that change?" Kane asked the security supervisor. "Nobody," the man replied, confused. I check the camera positions every week. They were fine on May 30th. On June 2nd, when I reviewed footage for the police, I noticed that camera had been moved. Someone had physically adjusted the camera. They had done it sometime between May 30th and June 1st. They had created a blind spot, a zone where no recording existed. On June 5th, Kane made a breakthrough with Daniel Crawford's location. California DMV records showed that Daniel had renewed his driver's license with a New York address in April 2019. He had returned from California. He was living in Queens, less than 45 minutes from Riverside Manor. Kane obtained a warrant. His team executed it on June 10th at 6 a.m. Daniel Crawford lived in a small apartment in Astoria. He was alone when police arrived. He showed no resistance. The apartment told a story. Photographs of Olivia covered one wall of the bedroom. Some were clearly from her social media accounts. Others appeared to have been taken from a distance, possibly with a zoom lens. Surveillance photos. Recent ones, judging by Olivia's appearance. A gray suit hung in the closet, recently dry cleaned. The receipt showed it had been dropped off on June 3rd, 2 days after the wedding. A laptop sat on the desk. Kane's cyber team would examine it later, but a quick glance showed multiple files related to Olivia. Photos, documents, a file named weddingplan.docs. Daniel Crawford was 28 years old. He worked remotely as an IT consultant. He had no criminal record beyond the 2016 arrest for disorderly conduct, a bar fight. He sat in the interview room at the precinct, calm and composed. "I know why I'm here," Daniel said before Kane could begin. "You found the photos." "Tell me about June 1st, Kane said. "Tell me about the wedding." Daniel leaned back in his chair. "I was there. I'm not going to lie. I wanted to see Olivia. I know I shouldn't have gone. I know the restraining order expired, but I know I shouldn't have been there." "How did you get in?" "I called the coordinator, pretended to be Marcus's cousin, got a security badge. It was easy." "What did you do once you were inside?" "I stayed in the background. I watched. I just wanted to see her happy. I know that sounds pathetic, but it's true. I kept my distance. I didn't approach her. I didn't speak to anyone." Kane opened his tablet. He showed Daniel the 50 photographs. "The photographer noticed you, Emily Harrison. She documented your presence throughout the evening." Daniel nodded. "Yeah. Around 8:50, she came up to me near the bar. She said she knew I wasn't on the guest list. She said she was going to find security. I panicked." "What did you do?" "I left. I went out the service entrance and got in my car. I drove home. That's it. I swear. I never touched her. I never even spoke to her again after that one moment." "What time did you leave?" 8:53, maybe 8:55. I don't know exactly. I just wanted to get out of there before security came." Kane studied Daniel's face. The man seemed genuine, ashamed even, but something didn't fit. 3 waiters saw Emily near the service entrance around 8:55, Kane said. They said she was talking to a man in a gray suit. They said she looked calm, not frightened. They said the man was holding the door open for her like he was inviting her outside. Daniel frowned. "That wasn't me. I was already gone by then. I left right after she confronted me." The timeline didn't match. Daniel Crawford claimed he left at 8:53 p.m. The waiters saw Emily speaking with a man in a gray suit at 8:55 p.m. Emily's phone records showed something even more problematic. Kane's technical team had recovered Emily's iPhone from her equipment bag, found inside the reception hall. The phone's activity log revealed a pattern. At 8:51 p.m., Emily had opened her phone app. At 8:52 p.m., she dialed 911. The call connected for exactly 4 seconds before she disconnected. Why would someone call emergency services and immediately hang up? The draft messages folder held one unsent text composed at 8:51 p.m. The recipient was Jenna Morales. The message read, "Found security. He's here. Olivia in danger." Emily had believed she found help. She thought someone was there to assist her. That's why she disconnected the 911 call. That's why the waiters saw her speaking calmly with a man at 8:55 p.m. She trusted whoever she was talking to. Kane reviewed the security roster for June 1st. 6 guards had been on duty during the wedding. All 6 were accounted for in different zones throughout the critical time frame. None of them had been assigned to the service entrance area. None of them reported contact with Emily Harrison. On June 11th, Marcus Chen returned to the precinct. He had requested the meeting. He sat across from Kane, his expression tight with controlled anger. "Why didn't Olivia tell me about Daniel?" Marcus asked. "We were getting married, and she never mentioned her ex-fiancé had a restraining order against him?" "That's between you and your wife," Kane said carefully. "My concern is finding Emily Harrison." "I know, but it feels like everyone was keeping secrets. Olivia kept secrets about Daniel. Daniel was stalking her. And now Emily is missing, and my wife knew there might be a threat, but she never said anything." Kane watched Marcus carefully. The groom's reaction seemed genuine, betrayed, hurt. But something about his phrasing bothered Kane. Did Olivia know Daniel was back in New York? She says she didn't. But how can I trust that? She didn't tell me about the restraining order. She didn't tell me she'd been engaged before. What else hasn't she told me? When did you find out about Daniel? Marcus rubbed his face. When you showed us those photographs, that's when she told me everything. We've barely spoken since. I've been staying at my brother's place. I need to ask you something, Kane said. Between April and May this year, you made 17 calls to a prepaid cell phone number. Can you explain those calls? Marcus's expression shifted. Surprise, then something else. Caution. You've been investigating me? I'm investigating everyone connected to this case. Who did you call? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. A private investigator, Roger Steele. I hired him in April. Why? I found out Olivia had an ex. A mutual friend mentioned it casually at a party. The friend didn't know about the restraining order, just that Olivia had been engaged before. I felt stupid for not knowing, so I hired Steele to look into it. What did Steele tell you? He found the restraining order records. He found out Daniel had moved back to New York in April. He tracked Daniel's movements. He told me Daniel was following Olivia, watching our apartment, following her to work. Kane felt his pulse accelerate. When did you learn this? Late May, about a week before the wedding. What did you do with that information? Nothing, Marcus said firmly. Steele advised me to let it play out. He said Daniel hadn't violated any laws yet. The restraining order had expired. Following someone in public isn't illegal unless it becomes harassment. Steele said if I confronted Daniel, it might escalate things. Did you tell Olivia? No, I didn't want to scare her right before the wedding. I thought if I just kept an eye on the situation, Daniel would eventually give up and leave us alone. Kane made careful notes. This private investigator, Roger Steele. Tell me about him. He's a former cop, lost his license in 2017 for something. I don't know the details, but he was recommended to me by a colleague who'd used him for a divorce case. Steele is expensive, but thorough. Do you have contact information for him? Marcus pulled out his phone and provided a number. He stopped returning my calls after the wedding. I tried reaching him twice on June 2nd and June 3rd. Nothing. After Marcus left, Kane ran a background check on Roger Steele, 52 years old, former NYPD detective who had been dismissed in 2017 for excessive use of force and evidence tampering. He'd worked private investigations since then, operating in a gray area of legality. 3 complaints filed against him for intimidation. No convictions. Steele's phone number led to a disconnected line. His last known address was in the Bronx. Kane sent officers to check. The apartment was empty. According to neighbors, Steele had moved out in early June. No forwarding address. Kane returned to the financial records. On May 30th, Marcus Chen had withdrawn $8,000 in cash from his savings account. ATM cameras showed him at the withdrawal, but they also showed something else. 3 hours later, Marcus met someone in a parking lot. The cameras captured Marcus handing over an envelope. The recipient's face was partially visible. Kane's team enhanced the image. Roger Steele, $8,000, 2 days before the wedding. Kane brought Marcus back in on June 13th. This time, Marcus brought a lawyer. "My client has been cooperative," the lawyer began. "He's provided all requested information voluntarily. If you're accusing him of something, state it clearly." Kane placed a photograph on the table, the parking lot, the envelope. "Tell me about this payment." Marcus glanced at his lawyer, who nodded. "I paid Steele to provide security at the wedding, unofficial security. I wanted him there in case Daniel showed up." "You already had venue security." "Venue security doesn't know what Daniel looks like. Steele had been following him for weeks. He knew Daniel's face, his car, his habits. I wanted someone who could identify him immediately." "Did Steele attend the wedding?" "Yes, he was there, dressed as venue security. I gave him a uniform and a badge that matched the regular guards. He blended in." Kane's mind raced. "Did you authorize him to adjust the security cameras?" "What? No. I told him to watch for Daniel and alert me if he showed up. That's all." "Did you tell the actual security team about Steele?" Marcus hesitated. "No, I thought it would complicate things. I just wanted extra protection for Olivia." "Where is Roger Steele now?" "I don't know. Like I said, he stopped answering my calls after the wedding." Kane leaned forward. "Your wife's photographer disappeared. Steele disappeared at the same time. You paid him $8,000. You gave him access to the venue disguised as security. And you're telling me this is coincidence?" The lawyer intervened. "Unless you're charging my client, this interview is over." They walked out. Kane sat alone in the interview room, pieces clicking together. Marcus had created the perfect setup. He'd allowed Daniel to enter the venue. He'd positioned Steele as fake security. He'd created a situation where Daniel would be the obvious suspect if anything went wrong. But why would Marcus want to harm Emily Harrison? The photographer had no connection to him beyond the wedding contract. Kane's team dug deeper into Marcus's background. Financial records showed no unusual activity beyond the $8,000 withdrawal. His work history was clean. No criminal record. Colleagues described him as methodical, detail-oriented, sometimes controlling about projects, but professional. Controlling. The word appeared multiple times in interviews. On June 15th, a colleague of Marcus's provided context. "Marcus needs everything to be perfect. When we work on architectural projects, he obsesses over every detail. If something doesn't match his vision, he redesigns it completely. He can't handle imperfection." Kane thought about the wedding, the premium venue, the professional photographer, the carefully curated guest list, everything designed to be flawless. And then Daniel Crawford appears, an uninvited reminder of Olivia's past, a flaw in the perfect image. But Emily was just the photographer. Why would her presence threaten Marcus? The answer came from Emily's camera. Kane's technical team performed a deeper analysis of the EXEF data. Professional cameras like Emily's Canon embedded GPS coordinates in each photograph. They traced her exact movements through the reception hall. From 6:15 to 8:35 p.m., Emily had moved in predictable patterns, photographing the ceremony setup, capturing arrivals, documenting the cocktail hour, standard wedding coverage. But at 8:35 p.m., her pattern changed. She stopped following the shot list Jenna had provided. Instead, she began methodically photographing one specific person, the man in the gray suit, Daniel Crawford. Except the timestamps revealed something crucial. Emily had begun photographing this person before Daniel claims he was confronted by her. She had been documenting him for 15 minutes before their conversation at the bar. Why? What had Emily noticed? Kane studied the photographs again, this time focusing on the background details rather than the subject. Photo 197, taken at 6:15 p.m. The man in gray stands near the terrace doors. His posture is relaxed. He's holding a drink. On his wrist, clearly visible, is a watch. The image quality was good enough to identify the model. A Rolex Submariner. Retail price around $9,000. Daniel Crawford's financial records showed he earned $62,000 annually as an IT consultant. He lived in a small apartment in Queens. He drove a 2011 Honda Civic. He wasn't wearing a $9,000 watch. Kane pulled up Daniel's arrest photos from June 10th. No watch visible. When Daniel's apartment was searched, no expensive watches were found. No evidence he had ever owned a Rolex. Kane enlarged another photograph. Photo 215, taken at 7:40 p.m. The man in gray is turned partially toward the camera. His profile is visible. Kane compared it to Daniel Crawford's driver's license photo. The resemblance was strong. 94% facial recognition match according to the software. But facial recognition wasn't perfect, especially in dim lighting, especially when comparing a profile shot to a straight-on license photo. Kane called in a forensic expert. I need a detailed comparison, not just facial recognition. Look at height, build, posture, everything. The expert spent 3 hours analyzing the photographs. The person in these images is approximately 5'11". Your suspect, Daniel Crawford, is 6'1" according to his license. That's a significant difference. The build also varies. The person in the photos has broader shoulders. The way he moves suggests athletic training. Your suspect's medical records show no history of sports participation. Kane felt the case shifting beneath his feet. Could these be different people? It's possible. The facial similarity is striking. They could be related. Brothers, maybe. Or the person in the photos deliberately styled themselves to resemble your suspect. On June 17th, Kane received a call from the phone company. They had traced the prepaid number that called Jenna Morales to arrange the security badge. The phone had been purchased on May 29th at a convenience store in Manhattan. Security footage from that store showed the buyer, Roger Steele. The pieces were forming a picture. Steele had called Jenna, pretending to be Marcus's cousin. Steele had obtained badge number 47. Steele had been at the wedding dressed as security. Kane pulled the surveillance footage from Riverside Manor again. He searched every frame for someone matching Steele's description. And there, at 8:47 p.m., captured briefly by the hallway camera near the service entrance, a man in a security uniform speaking into a radio. The image was grainy, but the build matched. Roger Steele. At 8:58 p.m., badge 47 was swiped at the service entrance. The magnetic reader recorded the access. Someone had used the badge to exit through that door at 8:58 p.m. The waiters had seen Emily speaking with a man at 8:55 p.m. They described him as wearing what looked like a security uniform. They said the man held the door open, gesturing for Emily to step outside. Emily's unsent text message. Found security. He's here. She had thought Steele was legitimate security. She had gone with him willingly, believing he would help protect Olivia from Daniel Crawford. Instead, she had walked directly into danger. Kane obtained warrants for Marcus Chen's phone records and email accounts. The search revealed communication between Marcus and Steele that hadn't appeared in the basic phone logs. Encrypted messaging apps that didn't keep records on servers. But deleted messages sometimes left traces in phone backups. The technical team recovered fragments, enough to understand the plan. Marcus had hired Steele to do more than provide security. The messages, pieced together from May 25th through May 31st, told the story. Need this handled professionally. No connections to me. Target is creating complications. Needs to disappear. 8,000 now, 12,000 after completion. Make it look like the stalker did it. But who was the target? The messages never specified a name. Kane's team searched for context clues. On May 26th, Marcus had written, "She's documenting everything. Photos are evidence. Can't risk it." The photographer? Emily Harrison. But why? Why would Marcus want Emily gone? Kane revisited the timeline of Marcus's relationship with Olivia. They had met in spring 2017. They announced their engagement in September 2018. The wedding was planned for June 2019. Everything appeared normal, except for one detail. In March 2019, Olivia had called Emily in a panic. The phone records showed a 15-minute conversation. What had they discussed? Kane called Olivia for another interview. She arrived on June 18th, looking exhausted. The past 2 weeks had clearly devastated her. "In March, you called Emily Harrison," Kane said. "You spoke for 15 minutes. What did you talk about?" Olivia seemed confused. "I don't remember a specific call in March. We talked several times about the wedding plans." "This wasn't about wedding plans. According to the phone metadata, you called her at 11:47 p.m. on March 23rd. That's late for a business call." Olivia's face changed. Recognition. "Oh, that call. I was upset. I thought someone was following me." "Following you?" "I kept seeing the same car near my apartment, near my office. I told myself I was being paranoid. The restraining order against Daniel had just expired. I was nervous. I called Emily because she was the only person I'd told about my concerns. Marcus didn't know about Daniel at all." "What did Emily say?" "She told me to document everything. Take photos if I saw the car again. Call the police if I felt threatened. She said she'd help however she could. She was very kind about it." Kane made careful notes. "Did you see the car again?" "A few times in April. Then it stopped. I convinced myself I'd imagined the whole thing." But she hadn't imagined it. Marcus had hired Roger Steele in April. Steele had been following Olivia, documenting Daniel's stalking behavior. Olivia had noticed Steele's surveillance and mistaken it for Daniel following her. And she had told Emily about it. Emily, who was observant. Emily, who documented details. Emily, who might have recognized Steele at the wedding. The theory formed clearly now. Marcus had created an elaborate plan. He wanted Daniel Crawford to be present at the wedding. He wanted Daniel to be documented by cameras, by witnesses, by Emily's photographs. He wanted Daniel to be the obvious suspect. When Emily had noticed Daniel and begun photographing him, that had fit Marcus's plan perfectly. But at some point, Emily had noticed something else. Maybe she'd recognized Steele from when he was following Olivia. Maybe she'd noticed inconsistencies. Maybe she'd seen Marcus and Steele communicating. Whatever Emily had discovered, it made her dangerous. So Marcus activated the second part of his plan. Steele, dressed as security, intercepted Emily when she tried to report Daniel's presence. He convinced her to step outside. And then, Kane needed Roger Steele. Without him, the case was all theory. Marcus could claim the encrypted messages were about something else entirely. His lawyer would argue circumstantial evidence. On June 19th, Kane's team tracked Steele through his credit cards. He'd checked into a motel in Pennsylvania on June 2nd. The room was paid through June 15th. After that, no activity, no phone usage, no credit card transactions, nothing. Kane sent Pennsylvania State Police to the motel. Steele's room was empty. According to the motel clerk, he'd checked out on June 14th, paying cash for the full stay. "Did he say where he was going?" the officers asked. "Nope, just loaded his car and left. He was driving a black Ford Explorer, maybe 2015 or 2016. Pennsylvania State Police issued a bolo for the vehicle. New York did the same. But Roger Steele had vanished. Meanwhile, Marcus Chen maintained his innocence. His lawyer released a statement. Mr. Chen hired Mr. Steele for legitimate security purposes. Any suggestion that Mr. Chen was involved in Ms. Harrison's disappearance is baseless speculation. Mr. Chen is devastated by this tragedy and wants answers as much as anyone. The public was divided. Some believed Marcus was being unfairly targeted. Others pointed to the suspicious timing and circumstances. Online forums debated every detail. Olivia stopped appearing in public. Her law firm placed her on indefinite leave. On June 21st, Kane received a call from a rest stop attendant in Pennsylvania, 60 miles west of Philadelphia. A black Ford Explorer had been abandoned in the parking lot. The vehicle matched Steele's description. License plates confirmed it was registered to Roger Steele. Kane drove to Pennsylvania himself. The Explorer had been sitting for at least 3 days, according to the attendant. No one had been seen entering or leaving it. The doors were locked. Windows showed no signs of forced entry. Police opened the vehicle. Inside, they found Steele's wallet, his driver's license, credit cards, $200 in cash, car keys in the ignition, and a handgun in the glove compartment registered to Steele. But no Roger Steele. The vehicle was processed for evidence. In the trunk, investigators found a duffel bag. Inside, a security uniform matching those worn at Riverside Manor, temporary badge number 47, and a small digital camera containing 3 photographs. The photos showed Emily Harrison. She was restrained, unable to move. Her expression showed fear. The backgrounds of the photos revealed nothing useful. Generic walls, concrete floor. Could have been anywhere. The photos had timestamps. June 1st, 11:34 p.m., June 2nd, 8:15 a.m., June 2nd, 2:47 p.m. Emily had been alive for at least 14 hours after her disappearance. The third photo was the last. Kane's team searched the area around the rest stop. Forests, rural properties, abandoned buildings. Cadaver dogs were brought in. On June 22nd, 40 miles from the rest stop, in dense woodland accessed by a rarely used fire road, the dogs alerted. Emily Harrison was found. The tragedy had occurred days earlier. The investigation confirmed it quickly. Evidence indicated the timeline ended around June 2nd, late afternoon, consistent with the timestamp of the last photograph. Roger Steele remained missing. The abandoned Explorer, the evidence in the trunk, the photographs. Everything pointed to his involvement, but the man himself had vanished. Police expanded their search across 3 states. Airports were monitored, bus stations checked, border crossings alerted. Kane focused on what he could prove. The connection between Marcus Chen and Roger Steele, the $8,000 payment, the encrypted messages, the plan to frame Daniel Crawford. But Marcus's lawyer was skilled. Every piece of evidence had an alternate explanation. "My client hired a private investigator for security," the lawyer repeated in every interview. "Mr. Steele went rogue. Mr. Chen is a victim here, just like Ms. Harrison." The theory was plausible enough to create reasonable doubt. Unless Kane could prove direct involvement, Marcus would walk free. On June 23rd, Kane's technical team made a breakthrough. They had been analyzing Marcus's laptop, seized during a search warrant execution. Most of the files were work-related, architectural drawings, client correspondence, project budgets. But buried in the system files in a hidden partition accessible only through advanced forensic tools, they found a folder. The folder contained research, articles about crimes where the wrong person was initially suspected, case studies of misdirection, psychological profiles of obsessive ex-partners, and a document titled Timeline.docx. The document laid out a plan, step by step, beat by beat. April 15th, hire investigator to track subject's ex-boyfriend, document stalking behavior. May 1, confirm ex-boyfriend has returned to New York, verify continued obsession. May 20th, begin planning venue security manipulation, identify blind spots. May 29th, establish false identity for venue access. Badge in ex-boyfriend's family name. June 1st, 5 hours p.m. Call coordinator to arrange badge pickup. Use voice modulation app. June 1st, 6 p.m. Investigator enters venue as security. Position near service entrance. June 1st, 8:30 p.m. Ex-boyfriend's presence will be documented by photographer. Allow this. June 1st, 9 p.m. Investigator intercepts photographer. Removes from venue. June 2nd, onwards. Physical evidence points exclusively to ex-boyfriend. The document was damning. It outlined premeditation. It showed Marcus had planned every detail weeks in advance. But it didn't explain motive. Why would Marcus want Emily dead? Kane returned to the one detail that didn't fit. The March 23rd phone call. Olivia had told Emily about being followed. But what if Olivia had told Emily something else during that conversation? Something that Marcus couldn't risk Emily revealing? Kane brought Olivia back in on June 24th. She looked haunted. 2 weeks of revelations about her husband's actions had clearly broken something inside her. "I need you to think carefully," Kane said. The phone call with Emily on March 23rd. You talked for 15 minutes. Did you discuss anything else besides someone following you? Olivia stared at her hands. "I don't know. It was months ago. I was upset. I said a lot of things." "Try to remember. Anything about Marcus?" She looked up sharply. "Why would I talk to my wedding photographer about my fiancé?" "Because sometimes we tell strangers things we can't tell the people close to us." Olivia was quiet for a long moment. Then, slowly, "I told her I was having doubts. About the wedding. About Marcus." "What kind of doubts?" "Small things that added up. The way he controlled every detail of the wedding. The way he needed everything perfect. How angry he got when I suggested changing the venue. How he went through my phone one night when he thought I was asleep." Kane leaned forward. "He went through your phone?" "Yes, in February. I woke up around 3 a.m. and saw him scrolling through my messages. When I asked what he was doing, he said he was checking the time. But I knew he was reading my conversations. I let it go because the wedding was coming and I didn't want drama." "What did Emily say when you told her this?" "She asked if I felt safe. She asked if I wanted to postpone the wedding. She said sometimes people show their true nature when stress is high. She was worried about me." "Did you tell Marcus about this conversation?" "No, I didn't tell anyone except Emily. She promised to keep it confidential. She said if I ever needed to talk, she was there." The motive became clear. Emily Harrison wasn't just a photographer. She was someone Olivia had confided in. Someone who knew Olivia had doubts. Someone who might have recognized signs of controlling behavior. Someone who, if she noticed anything suspicious at the wedding, might have connected the dots. Marcus had needed his perfect wedding. Not just for appearances, but because it represented his control over Olivia. Daniel Crawford's presence threatened that perfection. But worse, Emily Harrison knew Olivia's doubts. If Emily suspected Marcus was manipulating the situation with Daniel, she might have told Olivia, might have convinced her to leave. Marcus couldn't allow that, so he created a plan that eliminated Emily and framed Daniel simultaneously. 2 problems solved, 1 perfect crime. Except it wasn't perfect because Marcus had underestimated how thoroughly modern technology documented everything. Kane's team traced the voice modulation app mentioned in Marcus's timeline document. They found it installed on his phone, deleted on June 3rd. But deletion didn't mean erasure. The technical team recovered the app's usage logs. It had been activated on June 1st at 5:05 p.m. for exactly 3 minutes, the duration of the call to Jenna Morales. Marcus had made the call himself, disguising his voice, claiming to be David Chen, arranging the security badge that Roger Steele would use. On June 25th, Kane obtained an arrest warrant for Marcus Chen. Charges: conspiracy to commit murder, obstruction of justice, evidence tampering. Murder charges would come later, once Roger Steele was found and testified. But these charges would hold Marcus while the investigation continued. Marcus was arrested at his brother's apartment at 6:15 a.m. He said nothing. His lawyer arrived within an hour. The arraignment happened that afternoon. Marcus pleaded not guilty. Bail was set at $2 million. His family posted it. The media coverage exploded. Architect arrested in wedding photographer murder. Groom planned perfect crime for perfect wedding. Obsession with image led to deadly plot. The story had everything: love, betrayal, murder, a wedding turned nightmare. Olivia filed for annulment on June 27th. Their marriage was dissolved as if it had never existed. She moved back to her apartment alone. Her law firm quietly let her go. Friends stopped calling. The scandal had consumed everything. Daniel Crawford was released from all charges on June 28th. The district attorney issued an apology. Daniel gave one press conference. "I made mistakes. I shouldn't have been at that wedding, but I didn't hurt anyone. I just wanted closure. Instead, I was used as a pawn in someone else's sick game." He received 6 months probation for trespassing and violating the spirit of the expired restraining order. After that, he moved to Boston. A fresh start. The search for Roger Steele continued through July. Tips came in from across the country. None led anywhere. He had vanished completely. Either he was hiding exceptionally well, or he had met the same fate he'd inflicted on Emily. On August 3, 2019, a fisherman in upstate New York found a body in a shallow grave near Lake Champlain. Dental records confirmed it was Roger Steele. The medical examiner determined he had been deceased since approximately June 14th. Single gunshot wound, the same gun found in his abandoned vehicle. But the angle was wrong for suicide. Someone had killed him. Kane's team analyzed the evidence. Steele had been killed 5 days after Emily's body was hidden. The location was remote, difficult to access without local knowledge. Whoever killed Steele knew the area, had planned the disposal. Financial records revealed the answer. On June 14th at 2:47 p.m., Marcus Chen had made a cash withdrawal of $12,000, the exact amount promised to Steele as final payment according to the encrypted messages. Marcus had arranged to meet Steele, to pay him, and to eliminate the only witness who could directly connect him to Emily's death. Additional charges were filed on August 8th. First-degree murder in the death of Roger Steele. Murder for hire in the death of Emily Harrison. 2 counts. No possibility of bail this time. Marcus's trial began in March 2020. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence: the timeline document, the voice modulation app, the financial transactions, the encrypted messages, testimonies from Olivia, from Jenna, from the technical experts who traced every digital footprint. The defense argued that Roger Steele had acted independently, that the timeline document was theoretical, not an actual plan, that Marcus had hired Steele for legitimate security, and Steele had gone rogue, that Marcus had nothing to do with either death. The jury didn't believe it. On April 17, 2020, after 6 hours of deliberation, they returned guilty verdicts on all counts. First-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, evidence tampering, obstruction of justice. Sentencing occurred on May 15, 2020. The judge showed no mercy. You orchestrated an elaborate scheme that resulted in 2 deaths. You manipulated everyone around you. You turned what should have been a celebration of love into a nightmare. You showed no remorse, no humanity. Life imprisonment without possibility of parole. 2 consecutive sentences. Marcus Chen would spend the rest of his life in prison. Olivia attended the sentencing. She gave a victim impact statement on behalf of Emily. "I hired Emily to document the happiest day of my life. Instead, my choice of groom turned it into the day she died. I trusted the wrong person. I ignored warning signs. I'll carry that guilt forever." Emily's mother, Patricia Harrison, also spoke. "My daughter saw the world through her camera lens. She captured truth, beauty, moments that mattered. Her final act was trying to protect someone she barely knew. That's who Emily was, always looking out for others, always doing what was right. The gallery at Riverside Manor was closed permanently in June 2020. The venue couldn't recover from the association with tragedy. The building was sold to a real estate developer. It would be converted to luxury condominiums. The azalea bushes where the camera was found were removed during renovation. Jenna Morales continued working as a wedding coordinator, but she implemented new protocols. Every vendor was background checked. Every security arrangement was verified directly with the venue. Every guest was cross-referenced against the invitation list. She would never allow another unauthorized person into an event. Emily's studio, Captured Moments, was closed by Patricia Harrison in July 2020. The equipment was sold, the lease terminated. But the photographs Emily had taken over 7 years remained. Patricia donated them to a Brooklyn gallery. They were displayed in a permanent exhibition called Through Her Eyes, the Work of Emily Harrison. The exhibition opened in September 2020. Hundreds attended. Colleagues from the photography industry. Couples Emily had photographed at their weddings. Strangers who had followed the case. They came to see Emily's work, to remember her talent, to honor her memory. The final room of the exhibition contained one photograph. Not from a wedding, not from Emily's professional portfolio. It was photograph number 247, the last image on her camera. The man in the gray suit, face filling the frame, looking directly at the lens. Beneath it, a placard. Emily Harrison noticed what others missed. She documented what others ignored. Her camera captured the truth. This photograph helped solve her murder. She was a photographer to the very end. Patricia Harrison stood in that final room on opening night. She looked at the image her daughter had taken in the final minutes before everything changed. Tears streamed down her face. Someone asked if she forgave Marcus Chen. Patricia shook her head. Forgiveness isn't mine to give. That would require him to show remorse, to acknowledge what he did, to be sorry. He's shown none of that. He's sorry he got caught, not sorry for what he did. The exhibition ran for 6 months. Then the photographs were archived. Emily's name was added to a memorial for journalists and documentarians who died in pursuit of truth. She stood alongside war photographers and investigative reporters, people who saw danger and documented it anyway. Marcus Chen appealed his conviction in 2021. The appeal was denied. He appealed again in 2022. Denied again. He remains in prison. He will die there. Daniel Crawford married in 2022. His wedding was small, intimate, no photographer, just phone cameras and disposable Kodaks. He told his bride everything about 2019. She married him anyway. They live quietly in Boston. He still thinks about that night sometimes. How close he came to spending his life in prison for a crime he didn't commit. Olivia Sterling returned to practicing law in 2021. She specialized in domestic violence cases, helping people recognize controlling behaviors before they escalated. She never remarried. When asked about dating, she said she needed to trust herself again first. That would take time. Patricia Harrison died in December 2023. She was 67, heart failure. She was buried next to her daughter in Connecticut. The headstone read, Patricia and Emily Harrison, together again. Emily's camera, the Canon EOS 5D Mark IV, was buried with Patricia. She had requested it in her will. The camera that solved Emily's murder should rest with us, she had written. The case closed officially in January 2024 when all appeals were exhausted. Detective Robert Kane retired 6 months later. The Harrison case was his last major investigation. He gave one interview before retiring. Some cases stay with you. This one will stay with me forever. Not because of the complexity, but because Emily Harrison did everything right. She noticed the threat. She documented it. She tried to get help, and she died for it. Justice was served, but justice doesn't bring her back. The The wedding photographer who disappeared at a reception in 2019 was finally laid to rest. Her camera's last 50 photos had told the story she couldn't, the truth she had tried to capture in those final 18 minutes, the danger she had recognized when everyone else saw only celebration.